We're going to talk about our favorite subject, getting Medicare sales calls 24 hours a day. I've heard people getting calls, 50, 60 calls a day, particularly during the annual enrollment period, but pretty much any time of the year you can get Medicare sales calls. Once you hit 65 years old, I always say that every Medicare insurance agent in the country wants to take you to the turning 65 high school prom. And so we're going to talk about that today. And we've got Ari here from Chapter Medicare. And how you doing, Ari?
Doing great. It's awesome to be back with you and with your audience.
All right. We got a lot of questions already coming in here. This is a live Q&A as well. So if you have any questions, make sure you type them in. If you don't, if you're watching this in a recording later, make sure you join us. Subscribe, like, and all that kind of good stuff. That way you can find us in the future. Known as Ari with 4 exclamation points. I never get 4 exclamation points. All right. You're very popular, Ari. All right. Let's see here.
It has to be a planted
All
comment.
right. Good deal. Good deal. Okay. So what started this is there is a giant Justice Department lawsuit that has gone out. And this is a New York Times. U.S. prosecutors accused large insurers of paying kickbacks for private Medicare plans. And you want to tell us what's going on there, Ari?
Yeah, there's 2 allegations in this complaint against large Medicare brokers, namely eHealth, GoHealth, SelectQuote. And it's really a shocker. It accuses these brokerages of, 1, being paid kickbacks by some Medicare Advantage insurance companies, namely Aetna, Humana, and Anthem. And also it alleges that they steered older people, that these brokerages steered older people and those with disabilities toward coverages, towards plans that didn't offer them the best care. That is, they were steered away from plans that they should have, that they were eligible for, and put into suboptimal ones. So it's just hugely disappointing. It's a black mark on the industry that this was happening from, as the complaint alleges, from 2016 to at least 2021. And it's incredibly disappointing. That said, it's exactly what Chapter is opposed to, what's alleged in this complaint. And so it's exactly how we're different. And this couldn't be a more important reason for your audience to work with a Medicare broker who's independent and unbiased, because it's the result of all these shenanigans in the industry is the reason we started Chapter 5 years ago, and why we've been able to help tens of thousands of people choose the right coverage.
Yeah, well, actually, one very good thing came out of this for you and I, and hopefully for our audience there. When I retired from the Social Security Administration, I retired for about a week. I suck at retirement, and I immediately got back into this. I said that a lot of people need help, so I'm going to, see if I can help people. And eventually, it turned into a YouTube channel by the pushing of my son. But and we just wanted to help people with all things Social Security. And, obviously Medicare Part A and Part B, because that's original Medicare. You sign up for Social Security and stuff. But so many people were, being, kind of led astray and, signed up for the wrong plans and having a really tough time of it. And then so my son and I were talking, and says, we don't want to get into kind of that type of the Medicare field, the Medicare Advantage, the Medicare supplements, Part D, and all that kind of stuff. We really don't want to go there. But a lot of people are being led astray. And so we need to find some place that is going to treat people right. And so I sent my son out, and he researched every single company in the country, and Chapter clicked every single box. And so so luckily the reason you and I are talking, Ari, is because of companies like eHealth and GoHealth and SelectQuote and stuff like that, is because we wanted to make sure, we provided a good service to people. And one of the reasons this lawsuit, it looks like it was started, this is the gentleman here giving congressional testimony is none other than, that's
yes,
Kobe.
That's our CEO. And
Yep.
he was invited to testify in front of the Senate Finance Committee last fall in order to talk about what an independent, unbiased Medicare advisory should actually look like. So, Dr. Ed, just to reframe this for your audience, in the complaint against these Medicare brokerages that the Department of Justice filed at the end of last week, it's shocking because in the complaint it says that in public statements the defendant brokers, referring to these the named defendants in the lawsuit, these defendant brokers claim to be unbiased, carrier agnostic, and to have your best interests in mind. In private, however, the defendant brokers repeatedly directed Medicare beneficiaries to the plans offered by insurers that paid them the most money. In other words, kickbacks. And that's exactly what Kobe testified against when he was in front of the Senate Finance Committee. And so it's stunning to have this behavior actually highlighted in a formal legal proceeding by the Department of Justice. And
Yeah.
we'll
So
see what
it's
happens at trial. Obviously, these are allegations.
right.
The
Yes.
carriers and the
Yes.
brokerages are presumed innocent until proven guilty. You and I
Yep.
both know this.
Yes. We got to make sure we say that, right?
But there's a whole lot of facts and discovery that was dug up by the Department of Justice and that was alleged by the whistleblower as part of their complaint against these carriers. And it's worth the read.
Yep. Perfect. Perfect. All right. So yeah, that's if anybody's watched my channel on a regular basis, you know that Chapter helps out, and if they know my philosophy on Medicare plans, I always recommend Medicare, at least checking Medicare supplement plans out first, a Plan N, a Plan G, find out about those, and then ask about Medicare Advantage, and that way you've got the entire lay of the land, and so you can make the best decision for you. But a lot of these companies were immediately pushing them to a Medicare Advantage plan, completely skipping Medicare supplements because everybody makes less money with a Medicare supplement plan, and Plan N, they make even less money. And those are the ones I actually recommend because I'm cheap like that on this side. But there's no perfect plan, and that's one of the things they were doing. Oh, this is the best plan for you, but they weren't really backing it up. And that's one thing you can't do as a Medicare insurance agent. You can't say, across the board without even talking to someone, hey, this is the best plan for you. You actually have to, find their doctors and their prescriptions and all the rest of them. And then you can say, okay, based on all the information we just talked about, here are the one or two or three of the best plans, correct?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So if people want to go and read Kobe's testimony to the Senate, he outlined exactly what it means to be independent and unbiased. And I don't want to put words in Kobe's mouth, so let me just quote from it for a minute because I thought it was really elegant. He outlined what a consumer first standard would entail, and specifically consumers, meaning your audience, they need transparency across all Medicare plan types, namely Medicare Supplement versus Medicare Advantage. Complete coverage searches, meaning they need access to all the plans, not just a subset of plans. And they need to have clear disclosures in their advertisements, which I'm sure we're going to talk about with these spam phone calls and people being called back to back to back and not knowing who's calling them, or just hearing not connecting with an actual person on the other end of the line. Sometimes they're even being called by robocallers. So that's what we need. We need industry reform, and it starts at home. So this is something that I preach to our Medicare advisors here at Chapter. It's our North Star. It's why we're different. We search all plan options available to you. We go over the difference between Medicare Supplement versus Medicare Advantage. We spend
Perfect.
a ton of time on education, and we will not help you enroll in a plan that does not cover all of your doctors. A plan must cover your 3 Ps: your providers, your doctors, your prescriptions, your drugs, and your priorities, what's important to you.
Perfect. Perfect. Okay. So let's go in order to try to get people to stop these harassing calls. Let's go to some of the strategies they can use and what, these people that call you, what they can and can't do. One
Yeah.
of the things, for instance, let's say if Joseph or Be Nice or Tweety Bird or whoever. Oh, and by the way, Tweety Bird X gave me 6 exclamation points.
Okay,
So
you beat
it's a
me.
friendly competition here. So if Tweety Bird says, sends me an email or a text and say, "Hey Ed, I like Ari. Can he call me? I need to switch my Medicare plan." Hey Ari, call Tweety Bird. What do you say?
I can't call Tweety Bird. I can't. Tweety Bird needs to specifically request a call. That means filling out a form where they give their consent to be called, or they need to call me. So they actually need to dial my. I see you have Chapter's number listed in the upper left-hand corner of the screen. They would need to call on their end and initiate the appointment.
Okay, so nobody can tell, brother, after you sign someone up, "Oh yeah, I've got my brother too. Go ahead and give him a call." They're not supposed to do that. Chapter doesn't do that, but a lot of other places do that, but they're not supposed to do that. They can't knock on your door unless
No,
you've told them to come
solicitation is
visit you.
outright illegal.
Yep.
There's no door knocking allowed.
They can't stop you in a parking lot or anything like that, right?
No, even for Medicare advisors who are dependent on being approached in person, they need to be approached. They cannot approach someone. So they can't go up to someone at their car. They can't go up to you in the doctor's office. They can't stop you in the shopping aisle and say, "Oh, by the way, you look like you might be Medicare eligible." No, that's all not allowed under the Medicare advertising regulations.
Okay. That's why they wear those little button that says "Ask me about Medicare." They can't talk to you about Medicare until you say, "Hey, what about Medicare?" Correct?
Exactly.
Okay. All right. Let's see here. And then some of the other things they can't do is when you actually are talking to them and they come out to your home, they can't try to sell you anything else. If you say you want a Medicare supplement plan and that's all you want, they can't talk to you about life insurance or dental or health or anything like that, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. They can't talk to you about final expense insurance, which is burial insurance. They can't talk to you about other products. That's right. And even when you're having a conversation about Medicare, you get to spell out the products that you want to discuss. So if you only want to discuss a standalone prescription drug plan, let's say, then if you only give permission to discuss Part D plans, they can't pivot the conversation towards Medicare Advantage prescription drug plans unless you've explicitly given your permission.
Yeah, perfect. I've seen some people that do Medicare Advantage plans, and they also do final expense, burial insurance, and they kind of get around that by if they go out to somebody's house, sign it up for Medicare, and the person says, "Oh, I'm also interested in burial insurance," and they say, "Well, okay, well, let's put a pin in that. Let me schedule you for another appointment," and then they walk out to the car,
Right.
and then come back in, and I guess technically. Yeah, so that kind of gives you an idea of the regulations. Medicare insurance agents are highly, highly, highly regulated. It's amazing.
We only do Medicare. So I wouldn't know anything about how different Medicare brokers might sell final expense insurance. And
How they get around different stuff. But yeah, it's good that there's such heavy regulation in the industries, but it's bad that unfortunately people are just there's always bad actors and it ruins it for
there's always
everybody
bad
else.
actors.
Yeah, there's
Yes.
always bad actors. Okay, so those are the things that they're allowed to do and what they can't do. So that way you're fully your rights. To try to get those calls stopped, I always say the do not call registry. I know
Yes.
it frankly it sucks. It doesn't work really
Right.
really well, but it's a start, right?
Yeah. So a few techniques that I've implemented because I was just getting interrupted multiple times an hour by these calls. And I have a newborn daughter, so I'm already not getting very much sleep as it is. I don't need solicitation calls at 8 a.m. Eastern, which is 5 a.m. Arizona time right now. So what I did is I silence unknown callers on my phone. There's an option that allows you to activate this on iPhone, and I think the Android may have the feature built in. So
Yep.
silencing unknown callers is a great way to prevent them from interrupting your day. As Dr. Ed mentioned, the National Do Not Call Registry is a great resource. You can also file complaints against these numbers. So if you receive another solicitation from a company that you've already opted out from.
Great at the Do Not Call registry. A lot of people ignore that, unfortunately, but they ignore it at their own peril because they can get in trouble. But, they can also call, a million people before they do get in trouble. And that's one of the issues out there.
Another technique I like
Yep.
is when someone, oftentimes a call will be followed up. They'll leave a voicemail and they'll also send a text message. Just reply "stop" all caps to the text message.
Yep.
Stop, STOP, all caps. That gets you out of their text messaging campaign.
Yep. There you go. There you go. And when they call, I've heard something recently that if they get you to say yes on a robocall or something like that, then they record that yes and they use that for other ulterior motives. Have you heard that one?
Too. Yeah, I have seen that. Yeah.
Oh.
Where your yes is then used for a bunch of other offerings that they have to opt you into those as well. Or if you do file a complaint against them, it's evidence that you gave your permission to have the conversation. It's garbage.
Yeah. Yeah. So don't recognize it. Don't answer it. Don't say anything. Just hang up. And be careful on caller ID spoofing. Where they pretend to be Medicare or they pretend to be Social Security. Sometimes, I tell you, when I ran my Social Security office, somehow I think it was our local AT&T or I forget which service we had. Those change all the time, but our federal office, when we called some numbers, for some reason, our caller ID showed as Walmart from the U.S. government. It's supposed to say U.S. government, but it showed Walmart for a couple of months until we got that figured out. So it's caller ID is a hit and a miss sometimes. But so don't always take it as proof that this is the U.S. government. If you ever get a call from the supposed U.S. government and you weren't expecting it, then find out, okay, what office are you from? And then call that office directly. In terms of Social Security, call the 800 number, 800-772-1213, and say, hey, somebody just called me. Is this legit? Are you talking about a pending claim, or have we got a CDR going on or something like that?
The problem is you'll wait on hold for so long right now if you try calling the national Social Security number. So instead, just see how knowledgeable they are. You can tell real quick if the person you're talking to is actually from Social Security or not. As Dr. Ed mentioned, what are they calling you in regards to? I will add, there's a lot of scams around Social Security at the moment because people are filing earlier, worried that the system is going to run out of money. And Dr. Ed, I know you've done a bunch of videos on this, but so many of those Social Security calls that you're receiving are scams. They're not there to actually help you obtain your Social Security benefit. The only legit resources are the ones like this channel that are being offered to you, or guidance from Social Security itself.
Exactly. I used to get calls in my office on my own personal cell phone saying, this is a Social Security Administration. And I'm like, oh, really? What office are you from? Dallas. Oh, really?
Right.
And they'd give me some type of, my ID number is like, well, we don't have ID numbers. So that was always interesting. So, okay, let's, you got anything else you want to pass on this?
Yeah. If an expert from Social Security calls you, right? Like sometimes an expert is reaching out to you from the Social Security office, but they won't give you a callback number. Is that standard practice?
No. Yeah. If they leave a message because they've got something pending on their desk and they need it off their desk, so they're reaching out to you for some type of proofs or contact or something like that, you've got something pending, and they will leave their phone number plus an extension. It's usually a 5-number extension so you can reach them. And then you just call and, press that number and extension and it goes to their voicemail, and you can tell it's actually. And you can also Google a lot of, unfortunately, if you Google your local district office, most of the times it only shows the 800 number, the national number, the 772-1213. It won't give the local number. And but I'm working on my website now. It should be done in the next few days. And I've actually got a spreadsheet of all 1,200 plus offices, their actual numbers. So anyway, I incorporated over the time. So
Yeah.
I'll put that up, and that way we need to, be able to get the customer service we paid for. All right, let's get to some questions. Sound like a plan?
Sounds like a plan.
All right, Kathy just had one the other day. They didn't get far. There we go. All right, Diane, is there help for grandparents raising grandchildren without hurting my SSI and husband retirement? Okay, we'll try to get as many Medicare questions, but I saw this one pop up, and I'm always looking to help grandparents that are helping their grandkids. So it's always, that's awesome that y'all step up and do that. In terms of if your SSI, supplemental security income, the welfare-based program, any type of money you get coming in, it might affect your benefits. But if you're just talking about, if you didn't mean SSI, the welfare-based program, you just mean the regular Social Security benefits, no, any money that comes in for grandchildren does not affect those. And remember, grandparents can receive benefit, or grandchildren can receive benefits on the grandparents' record if the parents are deceased or disabled. And you provide half support. So if that's not the case, then unfortunately, grandchildren can't receive it. So let's see here. Susan, I get about 20 calls a day that go straight to voicemail. Very annoying, and I block the number and they still call. Yeah, but then, that's completely unsatisfactory because, it doesn't interrupt you, but in order to find voicemail messages from your friends or something, you have to go through the other 20 voicemails, right?
Right. That's right. I've missed voicemails from family members, from my Nana, who's in her 90s, because of all the spam voicemails that I ignore and don't answer. So I've tried a number of different approaches here, including downloading apps to try to block unknown callers. The best approach I found to not filter numbers that I actually want to talk to is to silence unknown callers.
Yeah, perfect. These people selling these policies are horrible people, like 20, 25 a day. I block them. Wow, 20, 25 a day. That's completely, unsatisfactory.
This person must be 64 and a half.
Yep. Yeah, the 65-year-old prom. I received a letter from Social Security about help with Part D. Should I fill it out and send it back since I'll probably end up on Medicare supplement? What do you say to that, Dari?
Yeah, so this is a great question. We received another one about extra help as well. So this is referred to as Part D extra help. And this is to assist with the cost of your prescriptions. And if you're eligible, then it'll almost zero out your prescription costs. And the Social Security Administration estimates that if you are entitled to Part D extra help, it saves you upwards of $5,000 per year. So if you're below that income threshold, I believe it's a little over 30K or so, go ahead and fill that out. See if you get approved. If you do, it's a huge win. And if you don't, it's no skin off your back.
Yeah, it's actually one of the
different from your Medicare supplement, though.
Yeah, it's one of the easiest applications in Social Security. Very, very easy. So definitely fill that out. Let's see here. I always try to avoid mentioning companies, but a company did not so good things with Part D meds. They got sued twice over it. Yeah,
there's another lawsuit I'm going to look up.
Yeah, there was a lot of lawsuits. Obviously, there's the one of people being denied AI, the prior authorizations. Your doctor says you need X, Y, and Z. And technically, how does that work? So if you've got a Medicare Advantage, these prior authorizations don't exist with Medicare supplement plans. It's just Medicare Advantage. So if you have a Medicare Advantage and the doctor says you need X, Y, or Z, what's the whole prior authorization and how are they supposed to address that?
Great question. So remember, there's two types of additional coverage that you can choose. On one hand, there's a Medicare supplement. If you go this route, it's also known as Medigap. It sits on top of original Medicare, and you don't have to deal with network restrictions. You can go to any doctor nationwide who accepts Medicare, as long as they're accepting new patients. Then there's Medicare Advantage, and it's one or the other. Medicare Advantage is a replacement for original Medicare administered by a private insurance company. It's managed care. This is where we get into the world of HMOs or PPOs, and You deal with network restrictions. You also deal with prior authorization, which means the insurance company gets a veto over the type of care that you can receive. In 2023 alone, there were over 50 million prior authorization claims. It's an astounding number, 50 million in 2023 alone. And for the very first time this year, insurance companies are going to have to disclose how many prior authorization claims they received under these Medicare Advantage plans. So 2 different options. Medicare supplement, you don't need to worry about prior authorization. You can receive any care that's medically necessary, which means that your doctor deems it so for you. On the flip side, there's Medicare Advantage. It has its use case. Specifically, if you're living off Social Security, then Medicare Advantage might be for you. If you're in excellent health and you don't expect your health to change, Medicare Advantage might be for you, but you just have to understand the trade-offs.
Yep. Perfect. And number one is getting educated. And when you get 65 or getting eligible for Medicare based on disability, then yeah, that's the problem. These companies, they just wanted to sell you what they made the most profit off of, and they wouldn't give you the entire spiel about, okay, you've got Medicare supplements, and you got a Part D, and you got Medicare Advantage, and HMO, and PPOs. It takes a little time because it's way too complicated, a lot more complicated than it should be. But unfortunately, that's the kind of the nature of the beast right now, and it just takes time. I get a lot of reviews, feedback from people that have contacted Chapter, and everybody has said, yeah, the person spends so much time with me explaining everything. And so they felt very comfortable. And Nelson will start disability after 2 years. So yeah, if you're receiving SSDI, Social Security Disability Insurance, after you've been receiving it for 2 years, you're automatically signed up for Part A and Part B of Medicare. So at that time, then you need just to figure out, how you're going to cover all the rest of it. Lisa, years ago, I was a life and health license, so I know how to handle all those Medicare calls I get. All right.
Well,
So that's
what's your
another thing.
secret, Lisa?
Yeah, right. What kind of it's no habla español.
I bet she gives them hell.
Right. Um, and these agents have to be licensed in these states as well, right?
Oh, yes. The person you're speaking to needs to be licensed in the state that you're calling from if they're going to discuss your doctor's drugs and priorities. Yes. Right. Before they get into any plan specific details. There's also a lot of disclosures too. There's several. And so you can know right away if the person you're speaking to is legit, and you can ask them what, for example, their health insurance number is.
Perfect. If I do actually answer the call, I tell them if I wanted to talk to them, I would have called them. Then they hang up. Yeah, that's the thing. It's if you don't specifically tell someone to call you, that they can't call you. But one of the things is if you're on Facebook and you press some little button and it tells you, then that company has authorization to call you because you just gave them authorization. If the form on Facebook is filled out, correctly. It'll say, hey, I want to talk to this person about X, Y, and Z, and there's a bunch of stuff you have to answer. And then that company, a representative from that company, is allowed to call you. But what often happens is if they call you and at that particular time you're not interested, oh, okay, I just want information. No, then what they're doing, the bad actors out there, are then selling your information to everybody else out there. That's why you're getting not just one call, you're getting hundreds of calls, because everybody that gets your information sells your information to other people, and then they harass you as well, right?
Yeah, that's right. There's one ring scams, there's traffic pumping scams. These are essentially, as you mentioned, these are mills for your number, where they're selling your number to other companies to then call and harass you to try to buy their product, or just to get you to answer the phone. So then they can send it to someplace. They're just trying to get a breathing person on the line, and then they sell that call to someone else.
Yep. The Jacksons. My dad is getting the spam calls since he's already turning 65 and got his SSDI 4 years ago. Oh, okay. So yeah, because they was it last week tonight with John Oliver did a great story about these brokers, these data brokers out there. Every time you go into the computer and you press this, that, or the other, they consolidate all of those clicks that you do, and they get all that information, and they see that, oh, wait a second, this person lives in this part of the area of the country, and they're interested in this. Oh, it looks like they're turning 65 soon, so they've got that turning 65 list, and those data brokers sell that information to other people throughout the country. And the legit places, they have your information, and that's where you start getting all of the mail, because they are allowed to mail you, correct?
Yes, and they're also allowed, and we all receive a ton of spam mail from the Pony Express, unfortunately. And they're also allowed to email you. So just be aware. But of course, if they send you an email, then there should be an opt-out button. And I know this is time consuming to go through each email that you might receive, especially if you're an adult child doing it on behalf of your parents, and opt them out of the email. But if you do it every 3 to 6 months, it can be a great way to keep your inbox clean. And you just sit down and do it with your morning coffee. And then if you do that for 20 minutes a couple times a year, it's quite a help with your email. And then for your mail, it's annoying to receive spam communication in the mail, but we're kind of used to it at this point with direct mail.
Yeah. Yeah, one of the problems there, I mean, in the old days, you used to tell people, okay, well, use it to wrap your fish in it, right? But anyway, not many people do that nowadays. But
No.
one of the bad things about getting all of that junk mail in your mailbox, your physical mail, is some people, when they're turning 65 and they're already receiving Social Security benefits, then Medicare, they sign you up for Part A and Part B automatically if you're already receiving Social Security benefits. And then what I see happening sometimes is people get so much junk mail that anything with Medicare on it, they just automatically throw it away. And there's people out there that actually throw away their actual Medicare package with their Medicare cards in there. So be careful on that.
Yeah. And this is also, let me say here, this is why it's useful to have online access to your Social Security account. It's fast, safe, secure. Definitely make sure that you have access to your online Social Security account. And separately, let me say, make sure you have access to your Medicare.gov account. Those are two separate government websites that it's important to have your login information to.
What kind of things can you do on the Medicare.gov website?
Well, you can see if you owe money. So you can see if you're not taking Social Security yet, then you need to make payment on your Medicare Part B premium, which is $185 per month for this year for most Americans. So you can make sure that you're not in arrears and make payment in a timely manner. You can also set up Medicare Easy Pay. So until you take Social Security, your Medicare Part B premium is deducted from your checking account. And you can do the same thing if you owe IRMA, which is the income-related monthly adjustment amount. So I would definitely recommend setting up your Medicare.gov account just to set up Medicare Easy Pay. So that way you don't have to rely on the snail mail to make your Medicare payments.
Yep, perfect. And then once you start your checks, there's usually about a month or two kind of a fudge room area that you'll probably pay twice for a month or two until Social Security and Medicare, those three computer systems, talk to each other. And so, yeah, if you paid already the $185 and then they charge you again out of your Social Security check, don't worry about it. You'll get a credit on your account and they'll pay it back. One more thing before we move for the Jacksons there. One of the things I recommend, your father is turning 65. Even though he has Medicare, in most states, when you have Medicare under the age of 65, you have it because of disability. And in most states, you cannot get a Medicare supplement plan. But now that you're 65, now that he's 65, he can get whatever he wants. He's not denied. There is no such thing as pre-existing, health or underwriting. There's no extra charges. So that's one thing I recommend people that are on disabilities check out at 65. And check to see if a Medicare supplement, a Plan N or a Plan G is a better option. No prior authorizations, no networks, because that might be the only time you can get a Medicare supplement. So you have what, 6 months, right?
Fabulous advice. In 46 states, you have a one-time Medigap open enrollment period, and it's actually based on turning 65. So even though your dad started Part B 4 years ago, his Medigap open enrollment right is based on turning 65. It's called his initial enrollment period 2. And in those 46 states, this is your dad's one-time shot to get Medicare supplement unless they're comfortable answering questions about their health history. The only states that are an exception here would be New York, Connecticut, Massachusetts, and Maine.
Yeah.
Dr. Ed,
there's some
spot on.
Right. Yeah. I think there's some, was it Utah? I think I saw in passing that they're going to be doing some type of birthday rule. People with Medicare supplements can switch. And there's some other, California has like birthday rules, and Washington and different places, right?
Yeah. The birthday rule and anniversary rules are separate. These are state specific periods that allow you to switch from one Medicare supplement plan to another Medigap supplement plan letter type. And they can be very useful. They can help you save money, but it's typically only for people who are already on a Medicare supplement plan.
Okay. Perfect. Sheila, I was never advised about Medicare supplements. There you go. That's probably contacted one of those, those sweatshops, unfortunately. Went straight to Advantage plans, but your channel has really enlightened me, and I will guide others. Perfect. Yeah. I mean, I don't want to talk bad about Medicare Advantage because, it's better than having, Part A and Part B alone with all those gaps. And, I always say if you have a crystal ball and you're never going to get sick or injured and you're just going to live for the next 60 years and you're all good, then I would say 100% get a Medicare Advantage plan with zero premiums because you're not going to use it. So, but unfortunately, life is what happens when we're making other plans, right?
That's right.
Oh, here's a good one. I'll throw this one to you, Ari. These are the
oh no,
the ads for those food cards. Are those legitimate?
So what this comment is about is there's certain type of Medicare Advantage plans that advertise additional goodies. And one of those goodies is a grocery or healthy food benefit. Now, if it is important for you to be on a Medicare Advantage plan, as Dr. Ed mentioned, Medicare Advantage plans still fill the gaps that you would otherwise have under original Medicare. However, it's important to never choose a Medicare Advantage plan that doesn't cover your doctors, your drugs, and your priorities. So if your 3 Ps are checked off, then you can get into a conversation around the additional goodies that you might like to have covered. For example, a grocery benefit. Let me say one more thing. These ads play nationwide. There are nearly 10,000 advertisements for Medicare Advantage plans playing in the fall. The ad that you might be served can discuss plans that are potentially not available in your zip code or county, because Medicare Advantage plans vary county by county across the United States. So that's why it's important to work with a company that's independent and unbiased and can help you evaluate all your options.
Perfect. Yeah, they do exist, but whether they exist in your particular area, and you also sometimes you have to have a particular plan, the Medicare Advantage dual eligible plans. Those are the ones usually with the most of those extra goodies, right?
Yeah. And that's for someone who's on Medicare and Medicaid. So they're dual eligible for both. And it simply doesn't apply to a lot of people in the audience because they're only eligible for Medicare. They don't have Medicaid too. Medicaid is for low income.
We're going to have to do another video maybe next time around on what happens if Congress passes the the budget to cut back Medicaid because that's really going to affect Medicaid, Medicare, people's budgets, those grocery cards, everything across the board, right?
Well, it's interesting, Dr. Ed. There's tension in the administration's proposals. On one hand, there's a rate increase that's going to go into effect for Medicare Advantage insurers for next year. The rate increase should actually make some of these Medicare Advantage plans have more lucrative benefits. On the other hand, though, the Medicaid cutback is certainly scary for anyone who's reliant on Medicaid for their health insurance. So we'll see. Right now, there's no proposed cuts to Medicare. The proposed cuts are to Medicaid. We'll see how things evolve, though.
Yeah. But if people lose Medicaid, and those are the people that receive that Medicare savings program, and the state Medicaid is paying for their Part B, Medicare, the $185, then they might lose that $185, essentially a subsidy. And I've heard several people say, well, I just can't afford the $185. So if that happens, I'm just going to have to cut Medicare. So it will affect Medicare kind of in the, kind of the backdoor way, right?
The second order effect. Yeah, potentially.
Yeah. Alan, wow. I was called by my current plan provider representatives that pitched the much cheaper prices for Plan G over my whatever. 365 days of the year, you can switch Medicare supplement, the plan N, G, or F, but you just might have to go through health underwriting. So a lot of people, they're just like, well, I'm still healthy, and but I have a G, and maybe I want to switch to an N, or I have a G. I want to see if there's a cheaper G out there, because a G is a G is a G, right? An N's an N's an N. It's only the price, right?
That's right. Each Medicare supplement plan letter type is standardized under federal law. So let's take Medigap plan letter G, for example. Under Medigap plan letter G, each insurance company cannot vary in its hospital and medical benefits. So the insurance company is going to offer the same hospital and medical benefits no matter which insurance company you choose. Plan letter G means you won't have to deal with network restrictions. You won't need to deal with asking for anyone's permission for a referral. You won't have to deal with copays. Your deductible for this year will amount to the Part B annual deductible, which is $257. And finally, you get a foreign travel emergency benefit, 80% for the first 60 days that you're abroad, up to a $50,000 lifetime limit. And then, Dr. Ed, I know you love Plan N. Do you want to just spell out the difference between Plan G and Plan N? They're very minor differences.
Yeah, very minor differences. You still have to pay the Part B deductible, the annual, the $257, just like G. And there's just two other things. You might have to pay, was it $20 to see kind of a doctor, up to $20. Sometimes I think there's about $14 or something to see a doctor. $50, up to $50 if you go to the emergency room and you're not admitted to the hospital, right after that, up to $50 on that one. And then there's the the extra charges,
the excess charge, yeah.
Excess charges that most doctors and throughout the country don't even charge excess, charges. And all you have to do is, find out if they take, Medicare, and you're usually good. I think for some reason, psychiatrists and podiatrists are the only ones that I've noticed take or, charge excess charges, but a vast majority don't. Well, one thing before we move away from Alan is, I don't think it's probably the situation in the particular company he mentions, but if you have a Plan N or a Plan G or a Plan F or something like that with any of the other major companies, be careful. And if you have a Part D plan, be even more careful, because if you're their customer, if you have, let's say, a Part D plan with some company, so you're their customer, and they can call you anytime they want because you're a customer. And sometimes I'm seeing people being called by that company and said, hey, we've come out with a new plan in your area. It's got a whole bunch of dental and vision and free ice cream and unicorns for life. Would you like to go ahead and get into that? And what they're doing is they're trying to get you into a Medicare Advantage plan. Because remember, all of these companies, they all make more money getting you enrolled in a Medicare Advantage plan. I know it's completely counterintuitive, because if you sign up for a plan N or a G, then you have to pay a monthly premium for that. You pay for the $185 for Part B, plus you're paying a monthly premium for the Medicare supplement N, G, or F, or whatever you have. For a lot of the Medicare Advantage plans, there's zero premium. And you're like, how can they make more money on that? Well, because as Ari pointed out, they've actually increased those prices. When you pay FICA throughout your life, that FICA Medicare, that money is sitting in Washington. When you sign up for a Medicare Advantage plan, the CEO of that company goes to Washington with his begging bowl, and they say, hey, we just signed up Tweety Bird or Cowgirl or whoever. Give us X amount of money every year. And they give that company money to take care of your health. And it's a very lucrative business. So they really want you to do a Medicare Advantage plan because they make more money on that. Am I correct in all those statements?
I hope you take that clip just now and make a YouTube short out of it. It's spot on. If you have a Part D plan with an insurance company, they may try to sell you their Medicare Advantage plan, even though it is incompatible with your Medicare supplement plan.
You can't have both. You can't have a Medicare Advantage and a Medicare supplement plan. So, all right, TJ, I have a feeling Dr. Oz will change the rules regarding calling anyone and everyone. Have you seen, I haven't seen really any big changes, because Dr. Oz is the new boss of CMS, the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services, which does, Medicare Advantage, Part B, Part A, and all that.
To be fair, he's only been head of CMS for a few weeks. And so I don't think there's been time for it to affect the regulations that have been issued. There are proposed regulations for 2026, and I haven't seen anything on the marketing side that would change the rules around. You can't call someone unless they give you explicit permission to be called.
So yeah, the 2026 type changes, those are already kind of in the works. So yeah, I haven't seen anything that he has changed yet. Although I have heard through the kind of the grapevine, because I've always said, I've always been an advocate of bringing the Medicare age down from 65. So, I mean, at the very, very least, if you file for retirement benefits from Social Security at 62, I personally believe Medicare should start at 62. If you file for survivor benefits at 60 and start your survivor benefits, I think your Medicare should start at that time if you want it. The craziest thing, which I could never understand, is people on disability. You're on disability. Obviously, you have health issues because you're approved for Social Security disability, but you have to wait 2 years to get your Medicare started. That has made no sense to me whatsoever. So,
Dr. Ed, I just want to say the back and forth in your comments is, I love your viewers. Specifically, Bella mentioned that Medicare Advantage certainly has its use case, and then Alan is talking about where Medicare Advantage plans with the specific benefit that Bella likes about her coverage, where they may or may not be offered. And it's just you have an incredibly savvy and educated group of viewers.
Yeah. But yeah, Bella's a freak one here. So yep, they're and the most important thing is they take that information out and they share it amongst their community, and hopefully, they've saved a lot of people a lot of money and got a lot of people benefits that they didn't know they were eligible for. So, this is an interesting one. Lisa, back when I was licensed, she was the one that was a licensed agent. We did not have Medicare Advantage as of yet, just supplements. Right. Yeah, Medicare Advantage is a relatively new thing. It's only last 20 years or so?
So it was signed into law in 1997, but it really didn't become a big thing until 2003 by bipartisan agreement between Democrats and Republicans, something we hardly see today.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think they were actually they were talking about adding vision, dental, and hearing to original Medicare, but then those three things got put into Medicare Advantage as kind of one of the selling points.
Yeah.
So
Well, under original Medicare, I love nerding out on the history of Medicare and Great Society legislation under LBJ.
Johnson,
But
yep.
originally, Medicare was supposed to cover dentistry. That's how it was proposed in the mid 1960s. And dentists lobbied against that. They wanted to keep their fee for service dentistry. And so it was never added. And so there have been proposals to add it to original Medicare. There was even a recent proposal in the last Congress, but they haven't made it out of committee. It would be too expensive for the country to insure dentistry as part of original Medicare.
Wow. Yeah. That's let me see. Medicare should cover everything without getting an N or G. People can't afford all that, plus a Part D. Yep. Yep.
Medicare supplements the oldest form of additional coverage. It's been around for over 50 years in some form. Original Medicare has always covered 80% of your medical expenses. It's never covered 90% or 100%. It's always been 80%, including under the original enabling legislation that went into effect in 1966.
Yeah, that's an interesting history. They always wanted you to have some skin in the game. That's why they did the 20% co-insurance. They didn't want people to go out there and use a whole bunch of health insurance if they didn't need it. So that's why they put the 20%. But that's controversial too, because if you've got money, you don't care. You just do 20%, and then you use the 80% that the government provides. But if you don't, so it kind of keeps the lower income people from using healthcare.
And that's what they tried to patch with the inclusion of giving Medicare by way of SSDI. And that came only 5 years after Medicare's implementation, approximately. And so that was what they were trying to fix. So for someone who would be dual eligible for Medicare and Medicaid, let's say, it would help cover the 20% they'd otherwise owe.
All right, let's see here. I called Medicare directly. Speaking of, you're kind of geeking out there. All of this goes back in the 1960s. It goes back even further. It goes back to, was it Upton
Yes.
Sinclair in the Jungle? And he wrote that,
Yes.
the meatpacking industry. His idea was, there was several pages in there where you're talking about the conditions of the meatpacking industry, the rats in the meat and all this kind of stuff. But the intent of the book was trying to get people to feel, for people that work in that type of industry, low income people working in the coal mines and stuff like that. But he says, and people were focused on, oh, wait a second, the meatpacking industry, is that terrible? I tried to hit people in their hearts, but I hit them in the stomachs, is his famous kind of retort there. And that started a lot of, those meatpacking industries. They actually requested government oversight, because they're like, hey, we want to sell meat, but nobody's buying meat because they're all afraid of, there are going to be rats in the meat. So we were like, that's where the start of the FDA and all that kind of stuff started during the progressive era, because companies wanted kind of a level playing field, so it didn't ruin, the entire industry. Yeah, now we seem to be going back the other way.
I mean, look, as we started off today's broadcast with, the Department of Justice brought lawsuit against 3 large Medicare brokerages and 3 large Medicare Advantage insurers. So hopefully we are starting to see the tides turn.
Yep.
Now, if we can only get them to tackle those spam calls.
Yes, exactly. And male pattern baldness. Anyway, medically necessary. Come on, folks. You can hook me up here. All right, Ron asks, I called Medicare directly, just got what I needed. I hang up on all the many other calls, report as spam, but they call from a different number. Yes, yeah. They're through Medicare.gov. It's got a great website. You can go in there and compare plans and check out all the rest of it, Part D and all the rest of it. So absolutely.
Yeah. And Medicare's number is 1-800-Medicare or 1-800-633-4227. So there you go.
Penelope, I don't think the do not call list helps with robocalls. It doesn't. But I think it might I don't know, it help a little bit. So I'm suspecting most of these calls come from overseas due to a freaking Indian accent. That's why the law doesn't go after them. Yeah, there are companies that kind of use those outside call centers, unfortunately. Let's see here. I've never researched Medicare supplements because I hate just paying the $185. What is the average cost about if N and G and Part D? Someone told me its average cost is about $160. What do you see in the averages this year?
160. It depends where you live. That could be the nationwide average, but remember, in 46 states, let me say 44 states. So the states that are more expensive for Medicare supplement are the 4 states that offer year-round guaranteed issue: New York, Connecticut, Massachusetts, and Maine. And then 2 other states where Medicare supplement tends to be more expensive: Washington State and Florida. If you don't live in one of those states I mentioned, you might be surprised that Medicare supplement plans are relatively affordable. Now, of course, Medigap plan letter N is going to be even more affordable than Medigap plan letter G, which Dr. Ed covered about 2/3 of the way through today's broadcast. But you're not going to pay an arm and a leg for it. And then for your standalone Part D coverage, you're absolutely right that that's separate from your original Medicare and Medicare supplement plan. And you need standalone Part D coverage in order to avoid a Part D late enrollment penalty. But these plans are relatively affordable as well. There are plans that cost less than a cup of coffee per month. It just depends on your list of medications, because you want to look at not just the premium for your standalone prescription drug plan, but also the copays for your medications. So if you're on generic medications, you might be surprised at just how inexpensive your Part D coverage is.
All right. Looks like some people are having problems with the audio. So some people are not having problems, some people, but hopefully it goes through okay. Okay. Dwana, Medicare app processed in March. Got my number, but no card yet. Haven't been able to complete info for CHAMP VA to avoid coverage gap and have upcoming doctor appointments. What should I do? What do you recommend, Ari?
You implied in March, so you should be good considering it's early May. What I would do, and I hope you applied through Social Security for your Medicare, but if you applied in March, then it will be dated back to when you applied. So if you applied in March and you needed it to start April 1st, you should be good, because it should start the 1st of the following month, even if your red, white, and blue card hasn't been issued yet. Now, what I would do if I were you is I would reach out to your congressperson's constituent services department. I think that is a great way to get help and put the ball in their court. Let them reach out to Social Security and find what's going on with your application to enroll in Medicare.
Yep. But she got her Medicare number, no card yet. Don't really technically need the card. As long as she has the Medicare number, should be able to do most things. Yeah.
Thank you for mentioning that. Yeah. If she has her Medicare, you just bring that Medicare number to the doctor's office. Thank you for mentioning that.
And if somebody wants to sell her a Medicare supplement or Medicare Advantage plan, what does Chapter recommend? If they have
you have CHAMP VA. Yeah, you have CHAMP VA, so you should be good.
Yep.
What other coverage do you need? CHAMP VA should cover the additional things that you're worried about. So I wouldn't do anything else if I were in your shoes.
Perfect. And then same thing with TRICARE for Life, right?
Yes, TRICARE for Life is for retired service members, meaning they served our country for 20 years or more. So thank you for your service. You should not sign up for any additional coverage. You will receive a $0 Medicare supplement plan from the Department of Defense, and you will also get drug coverage. You should not sign up for any additional coverage.
All right. A lot of agents out there try to sell people, they sign them up for Medicare Advantage or supplements with TRICARE or CHAMP, and Mm-hmm. All right, Alex, great channel. Thank you. I am 65 on original Medicare, Plan G and D. Okay, good deal. Great start. If I change to another Plan G next year, will I have to be underwritten to change to another Plan G in Texas?
Most likely, yes. But Alex, you don't need to wait until next year in order to shop your Medigap coverage. You can do that right now. So to change your drug plan, you need to wait until the fall during the annual enrollment period, unless you have a special enrollment period, like moving, let's say. If you were on a Medicare Advantage plan, you'd also need to wait until the fall. However, for your Medicare supplement plan, you can shop that at any time. Make sure you're getting a good price. Now, would you have to answer questions about your health history? Most likely, yes, because you live in Texas. But I would need to know a little bit more about your situation to give you a 100% answer.
So if he has he or she has a Plan G in Texas and makes a completely wrong decision by moving to Oklahoma, sorry, Oklahoma. I went to high school in Texas, so half of my teachers were from University of Texas, and the other were from Oklahoma. So anyway, we had always. But if you have a Medicare supplement, let's say in Texas, and you move to Oklahoma, what do you have to do with that Medicare supplement plan?
You just have to update your address. It will still cover you. Plan G is Plan G nationwide. Plan N is Plan N nationwide. So if you're on a Plan G in Texas and you move to Oklahoma, you still have your Medigap Plan G.
But will they have to re-rate you possibly according to the local state rates?
You might be charged an out-of-state rate, so it still might be worth shopping the plan if you're healthy enough to answer questions about your health history. Again, but it's not a guaranteed issue right if you move states and you're already on a Medicare supplement plan. Now, if you're on a Medicare Advantage plan and you move to an area where your plan isn't offered, that can be a guaranteed issue right to change to Medicare supplement without answering questions about your health history.
That's one a lot of people miss. So if you have a Medicare Advantage plan and it's okay, well, that's been great for a while, but I really want to switch to a Medicare supplement plan, a Plan N or a G or something like that. So if you move to another state that, as you say, doesn't have your Medicare Advantage plan, which they wouldn't because they're all geographically determined, right?
Could you repeat that question?
So if
about
someone moves from Texas and they have a Medicare Advantage plan and they move to Oklahoma, they can conceivably switch to a Medicare supplement plan, correct?
Yes. This could be a guaranteed issue, right? It's time restricted, though. You only have a couple months from when you move in order to take advantage of that one-time guaranteed issue right to change from Medicare Advantage to Medicare supplement without questions about your health history.
Perfect. A lot of people miss that one, and yeah, they say, "Oh, I didn't know when I moved, I could have checked out my options." Larry says, "Thank you, Dr. Ed, your son, and Ari for all you do for us. We need to like and subscribe and smash the cap. God bless." Thank you, appreciate it. All right,
Smash the cap?
Smash the cap, smash the FICA cap. Anything
okay.
over $176,100, you don't pay FICA Social Security more, and that's one of the reasons we're getting cuts in the future. So, all right, we are over an hour. Unfortunately, we got a lot of questions there, and it sounded like some people are having a little bit of audio problems. I apologize for that. But that'll be it. But Ari is, I think we're going to do this a couple of times a month or so.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to being back with you in 2 weeks. And your audience will always bring the energy and great questions.
All right. I appreciate it, Ari. We really, really appreciate you coming in all the time. It's always been great. All right. Y'all take care, and please